In 46 BC, as Caesar's forces surrounded the city of Utica, a Roman senator made a choice that would echo through history. Rather than live under tyranny, rather than compromise his principles for survival, Cato the Younger took his own life. His final words were reported as a defiant declaration that he would never bow to Caesar's rule. This wasn't the desperate act of a defeated man, but the calculated decision of a Stoic philosopher who understood something profound about the nature of true freedom. Cato's life and death offer us 5 essential Stoic teachings that remain as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. These principles can transform how we handle modern challenges, from workplace politics to personal relationships, from social media pressure to life's inevitable setbacks. The first teaching is that principles must come before convenience. Throughout his political career, Cato consistently chose the harder path when it aligned with his values. While other senators accepted bribes or bent rules for personal gain, Cato famously walked to the Senate barefoot in winter, wore dark clothing instead of the traditional white toga, and refused to participate in the corruption that had become normalized in Roman politics. In our modern world, this translates to making choices based on what's right rather than what's easy. When your boss asks you to cut corners on a project, when friends pressure you to join in gossip, when society tells you to compromise your values for success, remember Cato. He shows us that integrity isn't just about big moments, it's built through countless small decisions where we choose principle over convenience. The second Stoic lesson from Cato's life is the courage to stand alone. When Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus formed the first triumvirate, effectively ending the Roman Republic through backroom deals, Cato was virtually the only senator who consistently opposed them. He spoke for hours in the Senate, filibustering their proposals, knowing he would face ridicule and isolation. His contemporaries called him stubborn, idealistic, and unrealistic. But Cato understood that truth doesn't become false just because you're the only one speaking it. In today's world of social media echo chambers and groupthink, this lesson is invaluable. Whether it's standing up against workplace bullying, refusing to participate in harmful trends, or maintaining your beliefs when they're unpopular, Cato teaches us that moral courage often requires solitude. The crowd isn't always wrong, but being alone doesn't make you wrong either. The third teaching centers on the Stoic concept of focusing only on what you can control. Cato couldn't control Caesar's rise to power, the corruption of his fellow senators, or the decline of the Roman Republic. But he could control his response to these events. Rather than rage against circumstances beyond his influence, he channeled his energy into what remained within his power, his choices, his words, his actions, and ultimately his death. This principle transforms how we handle modern frustrations. You can't control your coworker's attitude, but you can control your response. You can't control economic downturns, but you can control how you prepare and adapt. You can't control other people's opinions of you, but you can control whether you live according to your values. Cato's example shows us that peace comes not from controlling everything around us, but from accepting what we cannot change while taking full responsibility for what we can. The fourth Stoic lesson involves understanding that external circumstances cannot diminish your inner worth. Throughout his career, Cato faced mockery, political defeats, and personal attacks. Critics called his moral stance performative, his principles outdated, his methods ineffective. By conventional measures, he often lost. His policies were rejected, his candidates defeated, his warnings ignored. Yet he never wavered in his commitment to virtue because he understood that success isn't measured by external validation or immediate results. This teaching speaks directly to our modern struggles with social media metrics, career setbacks, and public opinion. Your worth isn't determined by likes, shares, promotions, or popularity. Like Cato, you can maintain your dignity and self-respect regardless of external circumstances. True success lies in acting according to your principles, not in achieving specific outcomes. The fifth and final teaching is perhaps the most profound. True freedom comes from within. Cato's suicide wasn't an act of despair but of liberation. Faced with the choice between living under Caesar's rule or maintaining his spiritual freedom through death, he chose the path that preserved his autonomy. He refused to let external circumstances dictate his inner state. For us, this doesn't mean literal death, but rather the death of our attachment to things beyond our control. True freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want, it's the wisdom to want what you choose. It's finding peace regardless of circumstances, maintaining your values regardless of pressure, and keeping your dignity regardless of how others treat you. Cato's legacy endures because he embodied these principles completely. His death inspired generations of freedom fighters, from the American revolutionaries who quoted him to modern activists who follow his example of principled resistance. He proved that how you live and die matters more than temporary victories or defeats. In our daily lives, we may not face Caesar's legions, but we encounter our own tests of character. The choice between truth and convenience, between standing alone and going along, between inner freedom and external approval. Cato the Younger shows us that these moments define not just our character, but our legacy. His Stoic wisdom reminds us that we always have a choice, that our principles are worth defending, and that true victory lies not in conquering others but in conquering ourselves. If this wisdom speaks to you, subscribe for more Stoic teachings that could change your perspective.